Hello and welcome to the third video in my intro series to modding tools and mod authoring in general. This one isn't really going to be a mod authoring tool, but instead just a tool for users to use to generate load. So if you haven't already heard of xLODGen, I will go into more detail here in a minute when we're installing it. But just to preface, I'll just mention so you know if this video is going to be for you or not, is that this is just going to generate distant objects with new meshes so that everything looks, you can see further away. The things that are further away will be higher detail, etc., etc. So that's a basic intro, and we'll go ahead and jump into the installation process. Alrighty, so the first thing we need to do is install xLODGen itself. So head to the link in the description here. It will take you to the step modifications website. From here, just click on the xLODGen download, and it'll take you to a mega page where you can once again click download. While this is downloading, I'll show you another resource that is going to be vital to this guide, and that is the Viva New Vegas LODGen guide. Now, their resources are always going to be more updated than this video, and I will list in the description what has been updated since the time of recording, just so everything is going to be super clear what's going on. But basically, to give you a rundown of what xLODGen is going to do and how it works, is number one, I'll have a picture displayed on screen that was made by Wall from the FNV and TTW server, and it'll give you a little visualization of how this program is going to work. But to explain it in words, basically, xLODGen is going to take the files that you provide it, and it's going to generate load in all of the cells that you tell it to generate load for. Now, it does need resources to work, or it doesn't have any files to work with. Now, if you are a TTW player, you do not need to download this file. But for anyone who's just playing base New Vegas, head on over to the first link here for FNV LODGen. What you're going to want to do is download this first file, or actually the second file here. You don't need this main file because we're using xLODGen rather than FNV LODGen, which is pretty much the exact same thing. But download these resources with your manager. This is just going to be the first set of resources that we're going to use, so xLODGen has some stuff to work with. So go ahead and just mod manager download, and we're also going to download a few more resources. So these resources are just going to be extra meshes and textures that xLODGen can use to make higher quality load. So the first one I'm going to use is load additions and improvements, and I already have a lot of these installed, but I'll just follow along so you guys can look at my visual instruction here. So just install like you would any other mod. I already have it installed, so let's click replace, and then we'll also download the load supplementation, and I'm also going to download TCM's load overhaul. So just download the mod manager option if you are using MO2, which you should be, and also TCM's load overhaul. So I'm going to use those two. If you use NMC, you might also want to grab the MNC load texture fix from the FNV LODGen page. You also might want to download the optional file from Much Needed Load for NMC, which is also just another patch. And the same thing goes for, you might want to add to this load texture patches page and download the NMC patch. If you're using PocoOho, you might want to download that patch as well. So just to clarify what these patches are going to do, specifically the NMC and PocoOho ones, they're just going to change the meshes and textures so they look more accustomed to the look that NMC is going for, or PocoOho is going for. Hopefully that made sense. So I'm just going to install the other two that I downloaded. Again, you just install them like any other mod. And with these resources, just enable them all. And I'm also downloading, I also have this less flickery City of New Vegas one on. Use whatever you want to, and make sure to read the mod pages so you know what you're using. So if you ever find something that you don't like the look of, you can go and remove the meshes as needed. So with all of our resources downloaded as well as the program, just open up the zip for xLODGen. And what I like to do is I just have a file in my modding directory that is going to hold all of my modding apps. So let's create a new folder here, and let's call it xLODGen. Pardon my terrible typing around the mic here. And once you have the folder installed, just open up the xLODGen archive and drag and drop everything inside. Easy peasy. You don't need to rename anything here. We're just going to use an argument in MO2. So open up MO2. And All you're going to need to do to add this new executable is either click on the little gears up here or do it via the drop-down menu, clicking Edit, then click the plus and add from File. Then we're going to go to our new folder that we created, Apps, xLODGen, and we're going to use this xLODGen.exe. For Fallout New Vegas, you do not want to be using the xLODGen64, so just ignore that one. Now that your executable is in here, we just need to set up a couple arguments. The first one's going to be just -FNV, and the next one's going to be -O, whoops, I typed a U, it's supposed to be an O, and then do an open quotation mark. And let's just click apply and OK. And what we need to do now is create a new mod. So right click in an empty space, click create an empty mod, and just title this xLODGen output. This is just going to be the storage place for all of the meshes and textures that xLODGen is going to generate. I like to put all of my tool output stuff in the same area under a separator. So this is what mine looks like if you'd like to follow along. So with your new xLODGen output selected, just Control double click it to open up it in File Explorer, and just click on the path up here to open up the text for it. And Control C with the text highlighted. We're going to once again open up the executables list, and we're going to paste that path into our arguments here. Make sure at the very end you include a close quotation mark, and then click apply. So what we did here is the first argument is telling xLODGen to use FNV, and then it's also, we're telling it to output to our mod folder. So whenever you generate your load, all of the output's going to go straight into this mod, not into your data folder or into your game or into your overwrite. It makes it super handy to keep everything organized. You cannot use this create files in mod instead of overwrite toggle with xLODGen in particular. It says why on the xLODGen page, but for now just know to use the output and not this one. Alrighty, so we've got xLODGen set up. We've got our load mods installed. Make sure the plugins that they also installed are enabled for you. We're going to run xLODGen. So select it from the dropdown, click run. Now within here, it's going to take a little moment to load all of your mods, and you should have all of your mods installed when you generate load. You're going to make sure, this is basically the last step you should do for modding your game. You want to have every single mod that you add on installed here, so you can select any mod added world spaces, or if it adds any mesh changes to the world, like adding trees like Verts would. So when the LODGen options pops up, there's going to be a couple things on the screen here. So the first one is going to be world spaces to generate load for. And as it stands right now, I would only be generating load for Wasteland NV Mojave Wasteland. And we don't want that. We want to do it for the whole world. So just right click anywhere in this left window and click select all. That will just toggle all of the world spaces. Now, when you're generating load, you typically only ever want to generate objects load. And make sure your settings match mine here. You want to make sure Atlas size is as high as it goes at 8192. Everything else just match what I have. You don't need to generate trees load for Fallout New Vegas, so never, ever, ever check this box. If you have a mod like Verts or anything else that adds trees, those will all be contained within objects load. So no worries, you'll still be generating trees in the distance with object load. You might also want to generate terrain load if you're an advanced user, and I'll have some settings in the description for terrain load in particular. However, if you're new to generating load, I recommend you just stick with objects load, because number one, terrain load is going to take up a ton of space on your hard drive, and it's not going to be that huge of a difference in the first place. So with all of your world spaces selected and with objects load settings being as mine are here, just click on generate. Now xLODGen is going to run for a substantial amount of time. I will cut to when this program is done, and I can show you guys what we're going to do next. All right, so as you can see, I've got the message at the bottom there. It says load generation complete. When you see that, you know everything's done. So you can just X out of the program. And then you should notice, if you double click on your xLODGen output, you should see some meshes and textures in here now. That means your path looked good when you did the output, and everything worked out as it should. Now, I do want to mention here, you can't just play the game and everything's going to work now, but whenever you want to generate load again, or if you want to just revert to vanilla load for whatever reason, all you need to do is delete these two folders. That way, you don't have to mess with anything in your data folder or anything like that. You can just delete these two, just like that. Easy peasy. Now you have vanilla load. However, if you did want to generate new load, you should also do the same thing, where you don't just keep generating load within the same folder without deleting it. First, delete it, get rid of everything that was in here, and then generate new load again. And the only time you really ever want to do that is if you add new mods that add like new landscapes, new world spaces, new cells, stuff like that. Or if you add a tree mod or something that changes like Legacy Reborn with how the ground will be a different color, stuff like that. So hopefully that made sense, but that's about all I have to say for xLODGen. All right, so that just about wraps up my xLODGen tutorial series. If you guys do have any other tips for other users in the comments, please be sure to add those, and I will be happy to add that information to the description if I find it valuable. The next couple of videos in the series will be a little bit more advanced, so if you are looking for more of those advanced tutorials, the next couple of things I'm going to cover are going to be meshes and modeling, so be on the lookout for those. But other than that, that is the end of xLODGen. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.